Hey everybody, we'll get started in a sec. Let me just start adding everybody in the room. Sorry, I unmuted somebody. All right, thank you for being here early. We'll be starting in about 3 minutes, so just hang in there for a bit. We'll be starting in about 2 minutes. Thank you for those who are present. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. So far we have about 12 participants. Remember, at the beginning of the Zoom, we'll take attendance, and how I do that is usually with a check-in question. And then at the end, I'll ask you to, like at the end of our Zoom meeting, I'm going to ask you to put here so that I could check that you were here for the full time. And this again will be for credit. I'll be going over today's assignment. So here's our thing. It's going to be the graphs of sine and cosine. That's going to be our lesson for today, and I'm going to walk us through what we have due tonight. So here we go. As a reminder, this session will be recorded again for you to review later on. Expectations, of course, active listening, participate, be present, respect different ideas, be kind both inside and outside of the chat. All right, let's jump into our agenda. We're gonna have a quick check-in question so I could jump into explain the assignment today. And then hopefully you all get a chance to start the assignment and to submit that on Google Classroom. Again, it's gonna be due tonight. And just as a bit of a reminder, everybody, today is Tuesday. We have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more lessons left until the end of our pre-calculus class. So just as a reminder, we're almost there. And let's say you missed, for example, Monday's assignment yesterday. I am happily still accepting those. So if you didn't do yesterday's, please turn it in. This unit is going to be particularly important to do this week's things because it's going to lead us into the kind of like our final for next week, which is going to be kind of like a task. So again, it's super important to do the lessons that we're doing for this week. Again, I'm happily still accepting Monday's work. If you didn't do it, just let me know and I'll grade it. So here we are today, and we're almost done. For those who came in, we have about 5 more lessons left in pre-calculus class, and that's going to be the end of pre-calc. So we're almost there. Just encouraging y'all to turn in what you can. And, after that, for our seniors, we're going to have preparing for presentations of learning coming up. So that's why we're ending our lessons next Wednesday. Okay, cool. So the assignment that's going to be due on Google Classroom is going to be using two tools. First off, there's going to be a Desmos and then something called a unit circle tool. I'm going to be going over in today's Zoom how to use those so that you can complete today's assignment. Let me let in Bruno and Raven. Hey guys, Bruno, Raven. Just going over today's assignment that's being due. The fact that we have about 5 more pre-calculus lessons left. Just reminding everyone to get those in. Yesterday we had an assignment. Do make sure you get those in. But before we jump into talking about what today's, thing is due, let's jump into our check-in question. And you're going to be using the chat to answer this. So what is your favorite snack? Is going to be the chat question. And again, this is how I'm also going to be taking our morning attendance is, participating in a quick check-in. So what is your favorite favorite snack? Go ahead and put that in. So we got strawberries, trail mix. Let me put in mine. Sorry for the caps. Cheez-Its, Goldfish, chips, hot Cheetos, grapes. That's healthy. Chips, a churro, potato chip, fruit. Yep. Un churrito. Okay. Great. Okay. Um, Mango from Fasty, fruit, mangoes, fruit, chips and chips. Awesome. Yeah, I love the fruit with the tahine on it. It's really good. Fruit roll-ups. That's a good one. Yep, if you're craving extra sweetness. So again, y'all. Okay, La Novia for Tony. Anyway, let me let on some other people. I think Stormy just entered in. We're having our check-in question on what's your favorite snack. Again, this is for the morning attendance part of our Zoom. So if you haven't answered, please go ahead and answer. We're gonna go ahead and move on. Okay, let us move on. Okay, so as a reminder, y'all, this was yesterday's assignment. If you did not do it, like I said, don't hesitate to please do it. But one of the big ideas from yesterday's assignment was that the cosine represents the x value on the unit circle. So the cosine of the angle is the x value, and then the sine of the angle is the y value. So that was like an important big idea from yesterday's lesson. We're going to kind of bring that idea into today's. Okay, so let's jump into explaining the activity because I want to make sure that y'all have what you need to do the activity. I'm going to explain these screenshots I have of my laptop in a second. So number one, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to open up today's task. We're going to read it, look at it together. Number two, I'm going to explain how to use the Desmos and the tool to complete the assignment. And number three, if you have any questions, you could ask it in the chat. So one of the things I wanted to quickly review is on Desmos, I'm going to be putting in the symbol pi, which, is 3.14, but you want to use pi, the symbol. And how you get that on Desmos is you push P and then I. That's all, and it gives you pi. That's for Desmos. And then just because sometimes when we're doing Desmos in class, a lot of students kind of forget how do you get that division symbol. It's simply that dash that's right below the question mark on your Chromebook. So that's how you get division when you're doing this on Desmos. Just a brief review on that. Let me know if anyone has any clarifying questions on that. Feel free to use the chat. All right. Let's jump into today's task. So for this, I'm looking at this together with you. You could feel free to do this together, along with me if you want. If you're the type who wants to do it right now with me and you're on a Chromebook, then I'm gonna go ahead and put the link into the chat so you have that. But if you're on your phone, it's gonna be kind of hard to look at the task and look at what I'm doing. So it's up to you if you wanna open the task and look at it too. So let me just put that in the chat. Or you could just totally watch, that's fine, and you could just do it later. Because it's kind of like if you're watching and trying to do it, you might get lost. So, but I put it into the chat there if you want to already take a look. Who's in here already? There's some of us in there. Okay, so let me go ahead and minimize the chat there. So this is what we're gonna do. You're gonna have to use Desmos. You're gonna be inserting some screenshot. But before you hit Desmos, you have to use this unit circle tool. So I'm gonna go ahead and click the unit circle tool. It's gonna take you to this site. But what you wanna do is you wanna ignore this part and you're gonna scroll down until it says 9.2, do the wave. So I clicked on the unit circle tool that I need, which is this. This is what I'm going to be using to kind of create my Desmos graph. Let me just make sure I check the chat if anyone has any questions of what I'm doing. So again, I'm on here. I clicked on the unit circle tool and I scrolled down a bit to get this tool right here. Okay, so here's how it's gonna work. This right here is a radian measure, and it allows you to kind of increase the radian measure until you go all around the unit circle, and it's kind of giving you the X and Y coordinates for you. So this is like a nice tool. So as you increase radian measure, it gives you the X and Y values until you hit the end. And then you go back. So this is a nice tool. What we're gonna be doing is graphing the X values that we're getting from this onto Desmos. Hold on, there's somebody in the waiting room. DT. Okay, welcome. So I'm just going over the tool that you'll need to use for today's assignment. It's this unit circle tool. Again, I'm going back to the assignment and I'm clicking the unit circle tool that it linked on there. So here's what's gonna happen. So first off, in order to use this tool is that we're gonna first try to graph. Let's go back to the assignment. It says, use technology to plot the values of y equals cosine theta. And it says where theta is the measure of an angle in radians. And you're gonna insert the screenshot. So I'm gonna try to plot cosine theta using what I know about the unit circle. So just as a reminder, remember everybody from yesterday's lesson, and if you don't remember, I'm just gonna tell you, the X value is always your cosine. So what I'm just trying to look at when I'm moving this is just my X value, just the first coordinate point is my X value. In order to graph cosine, that's what I'm looking at. And again, this is your X, the second one is your Y, so the first one. So what I wanna do right now, I'm gonna ask a question into the chat and y'all can respond, is that as I'm moving, like say I start right here, notice that cosine starts at 1, X is 1. As I'm moving up on the amount of radians, what is the X value doing? What is cosine doing is what I'm asking. So it was 1, now it's 0.97. Now let's pay attention to what the X value is doing as I'm moving up. What is my X value doing? So I'm seeing some responses there. So I think our first off one said it's decreasing. Jasmine's also agreeing, going down, decreasing, decreasing. Tony, great. Y'all can see that X value, right? If we're just focused on the first coordinate, it's getting closer to 0. Yeah, very true. Decreasing and then down, I think is what Nayeli said. Okay, look at that. Darian says the X value is increasing, but the Y value was increasing. That's a good observation. For sure. So that's true. So as we moved along, we saw that X started at 1, but then as we move up on the unit circle, the X value is decreasing and then it hits 0. Okay, let's go ahead and continue this and see what happens as we go all around the unit circle. Remember, it's a whole thing, not just the first quadrant. So let's see what happens to the X value. So X is 0. Now it is looking like it's continuing to decrease because negative means even less than 0. It's continuing to get even more and more negative, I believe, as you go down on the unit circle. And then it hits -1. So right now, cosine went from 1, it went from 1 to 0, and then now it's down to -1 so far. Okay, now let's keep going. Then after it hits -1, the x value is, let's keep moving. Now it's kind of increasing because -0.97 is greater than -1. It's kind of now increasing now as you go down. And then if you hit here, your cosine now is 0, and 0 is greater than the negative value, so it's still kind of increasing at this point. And then let's finish the circle. So yep, it looks like the x value is now increasing back again and becomes 1 again. So that was like kind of like a pattern we're seeing. So at first, y'all noticed and said that it was decreasing. It hits 0, becomes -1, becomes 0 again, and then it becomes 1 again. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and graph the trend that we just saw for cosine. And then the second question in the assignment is doing that for sine. For sine, basically, you're now looking at what the y pattern is doing. So this is what we're going to do now. Okay, great. So we now know how to kind of use this tool. You're going to open up the Desmos that I linked for you. That's the next step. And so I took the morning attendance by our check-in question. Is that Diego, by the way, DT? I took, yeah, I took attendance, but if right now you're responding, that's totally fine. I could check that out because I just download the chat and from there I see who is here. So you're good. And I'm going to take attendance again at the end. All right, so now that we know kind of how to use the tool, we're going to try to graph the stuff that we saw in the tool. Let me just let in James right now. Hi, James, welcome. I'm just explaining how to use the tools to do today's assignment. Okay, cool. So you definitely want to use the Desmos that I attached because notice like here, the x-axis is radians. So I did that on purpose to make it easier for y'all to plot your stuff. And then I included 2 tables for you. The first one can be your cosine. The second one can be your sine. So what we're going to be doing is right here on the left-hand side of the table, I'm going to put radians. And on the right-hand side, I'm going to put cosine because remember the first question says we want to graph cosine. And then the bottom one, we could do sine. So let's go ahead and try to do that using this. Okay, so notice everybody, I start off at 0 pi over 12 radians. My cosine is 1. So this is how I'm going to plot that. I'm going to go back to Desmos. Right here, it's going to be 0 pi. It's because I capitalized pi. 0 pi over 12. My cosine was 1. And that's my first point. So see how I'm doing that? So make sure that you're using how I got pi is I just put pi, and how I get the division is my dash symbol. So that's my first coordinate. And you want to put at least 8 coordinates here to get a good graph. So what I'm going to do is kind of strategic here. I'm going to go in the middle. I'm going to ignore those other points right here. I'm just going to choose some point in the middle here. So when my radian measure is 3 pi over 12, my cosine is 0.71. So I'm going to go back to Desmos. So 3 pi over 12 was the radian measure. My cosine was 0.71. Okay, so we're seeing something here. And we're just going to keep going. Now I'm going to just move up to this point right here. I'm going to just kind of ignore that. I'm just trying to hit kind of important points. So now I'm here. So when my radian measure is 6 pi over 12, my cosine is now 0. So I'm going to go back to my Desmos and graph. 6 pi over 12, my cosine is now 0. So notice how that's looking like right here in our graph. It started at 1 and it's decreasing just the way that y'all were saying it was doing as we were going around the unit circle. All right, let's continue to go ahead until we get the whole unit circle. So I'm going to go again somewhere in the middle of this quadrant. So when my radian measure is 9 pi over 12, my cosine now is negative 0.71. So 9 pi over 12 is now negative 0.71. Okay. And then we keep going. So now I'm going to choose all the way down here. So now when my radian measure is 12 pi over 12, my cosine is -1. And again, if you're following along, you can go ahead and complete the Desmos as we're going. And if you're watching, just make sure that you understand how to, do what I'm doing right now, like do the pi symbol and then the division. Make sure that you got that down. So far, this is how the graph is going. Remember, it was 1 and it was decreasing in the negative way. And then we just want to keep going. So again, I'm going to choose probably somewhere here in the middle again. It's probably going to be like a number that was the 0.71. I see that point kind of, that number, that value repeating. So now when I have 15 pi over 12 radians, my cosine is -0.71 again. So 15 pi over 12 radians is going to be again the -0.71. So that's the part that we're seeing that it's increasing back up again. So it was going down, and then that's when it starts to go back up. All right, let's keep going. Right here. So when the radian measure is 18 pi over 12, my cosine, my x value, is now 0. So 18 pi over 12, cosine 0. And then let's keep going. We're almost there. I'm going to choose somewhere in the middle right here. So when my radian measure is 21 pi over 12, my cosine is 0.71. So 21 pi over 12, 0.71 again. And you could kind of like, if you're kind of already seeing a trend here, you could kind of already imagine what our next point will be. But once it hits back around the circle at 24 pi over 12, we get that the cosine value is 1. So let's go back. 24 pi over 12, cosine value is 1. So that looks like that is my full cosine graph. Notice it's a wave for those who are, and why do we use the x value for y? So because basically what we want to graph here is in this Desmos graph, the x represents radian measure actually, like how you're opening on the unit circle is the x in this Desmos that we have, and the y actually is representing the cosine here, Wendy. So that's why we're using that x value to represent the y as cosine for this specific graph. Because we want to see, like, as the radians is going up, what is the x value doing? And what the x value is doing is the y-axis in this case. So I hope that answers the question. Because we're just trying to see how is cosine behaving. Is it like increasing, decreasing? And it helps to do that by choosing y to be the cosine, which is kind of like going back and seeing that that's the x over here. Let me know if that needs some more clarification. But if not, so notice, and for those who are taking physics, all right, thank you. For those who are taking physics, like you guys kind of have done waves before, and maybe some of the seniors who, kind of remember some physics waves, sound waves, things like that. I don't know if y'all remembered that sometimes it had like sine or cosine in the formulas. And that's the reason why, because sine and cosines are wave functions. So this right here is your cosine function. This is the parent function for cosine. And we've completed it by graphing the radian measure with what the cosine value was using this tool right here. So this is cosine. So what you're gonna do, right, is you're gonna go ahead and take your screenshot, like, okay, there, Miss Sedana, I completed this. You're gonna show me the table and you're gonna show me your graph. Take a screenshot, you're gonna go back to the assignment, and that's what you're gonna insert right here. Like you would go to insert image, and you're gonna put in that screenshot for me. But first you gotta do it on your own, that you know how to use the tools first. So that's what you're gonna put for number 1, graphing cosine. Now, let's see our timing here. Yeah, we got about 9 minutes, or a little bit less than that, because I want to take our attendance to get started on sine, to show you how to do sine. And then we could like, after you do sine, basically it's just you analyzing what you notice about the graphs, how they different, how they same, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward on this assignment. So let's jump into doing the sine one now. So for sine, I'm actually going to just probably steal the same radian points that I used for cosine. I'm going to use the same radian points. So I'm going to start at 0 pi over 12. So again, the x is radians, and the y now is going to be our actual sine. And if we remember from yesterday's lesson, the y value is your sine. So we're looking now at the second coordinate point. So when radian measure is 0 pi over 12, my sine is 0. I'm going to go here. When radian 0 pi over 12, sine is 0. Notice that's showing up as purple right here. So sine is kind of starting off at a different location than cosine. Okay. The next point that I did looks like 3 pi over 12. So I'm going to do 3 pi over 12 again. And you guys are free to use the same points that I'm using. That's totally fine. So 3 pi over 12, I think that was the middle point. Yeah. So at 3 pi over 12, coincidentally, your sine is the same as cosine here. So that's okay. We're going to put 0.71. So it's kind of like lining up right there. And then let's go back to our tool. But when we hit back up here, when we're at 6 pi over 12 radians, my sine is now 1, not 0 like cosine is. So sine is now 1 at 6 pi over 12. So it looks like that. Notice how it looks like cosine starts off decreasing, and we're noticing that sine kind of starts at 0 and starts to increase. So it's kind of like opposite right now. And then you just keep going until you fill out the table for sine here. So I'm going to again choose a middle value. So that's 9 pi over 12. My sine, remember the second point is sine, is going to be a positive 0.71. So at 9 pi over 12, it's positive, like that. So that looks like it was starting to increase. Now it's starting to decrease right here, the sine. Okay. And we keep going. So then again, 12 pi over 12, when we have that many radians, my sine is not the first one, it's the second one, is going to be 0. It's going to be 0. So far we're already starting to see some differences that you could jot down for later as you complete this assignment. We're going to keep going. So when when the radian measure is 15 pi over 12, my sine is now negative 0.71. And then so forth. So maybe I could go ahead and just stop there to let you all complete it and kind of just see how it's the same or different. But I kind of started it off. You're like, it's almost there, like 3 more points. But that's how you do this assignment, and that's how you use the 2 tools I gave you. So number 1, I gave you this, but it's blank. You want to do the tables on your own? Feel free to use the same radian measures that I'm using. I chose these strategically so that it could kind of be equally spaced around the unit circle. Or you're free to choose your own radian measures. Maybe you get something different. You shouldn't though. You should get actually the same pattern that I'm getting, but probably different coordinate points, but kind of the same wave pattern. So you shouldn't get anything different as far as that is concerned. But basically, once you're done with sine, take your screenshot, put it in here, and then 3 and 4 is like you're analyzing those pictures. Oh, can I see the cosine table again? This one up here? Yeah, so this right here is your cosine table. Yeah, you could totally even get this down and just put that in for yourself. Just as long as basically the idea is you're understanding where I got this from. And I'm getting these numbers and values from the unit circle itself. So you could see that that's where the waves are coming from. Because as you go around the circle, right, the cosine is kind of like increase. It's decreasing, then increasing, then decreasing, kind of goes in a pattern. And that's why it gives it this wave. So that's like the big idea from what you're getting on graphing it. But yeah, so that is our assignment. Remember, to complete this, turn it in. We only have, now, if you're done with today's assignment though, there's only 4 more lessons left until the end. Again, because seniors, we have presentation of the learning going on. Next week, we're gonna have like our little final, and that's gonna be pretty much it. And that will be, yeah. So just make sure that you're catching up on this stuff because that's what our final is going to be again. My office hours is going to be tomorrow. I had them today as well, but tomorrow from 11 to 12. If you are struggling with catching up or understanding any of the work, I'm happy to help. Yeah, so sorry, I kind of like talked a lot because I had to go over all the directions. Yeah, the final's only going to be about the unit circle, Raven. That's correct. Unit circle, waves, yeah. And yeah, perfect. And as a reminder, and then hopefully, Faith, you got that down, this table. As a reminder, this is due today. And if you go back to our virtual calendar, don't forget that you do have an assignment on Wednesday. I've been noticing a trend where a lot of people do Monday, Tuesday, but they kind of fall off a little bit on Wednesday. So just as a reminder, we do have an assignment tomorrow. It's going to be the last one of the week. Now, if you do need, for example, Thursday or Friday to catch up on the work, I am happy to give you that. As long as you text me, let me know. I'm happy to let you catch up on these 2 days because I give these days kind of so that you have that opportunity to do that. But lastly, y'all, so today we're going to be doing the basic sine and cosine graphs. Tomorrow is going to be transforming them. That means like the stretching, compressing. It's going to be straightforward. You'll see. It's not going to be too complex, but yeah. I don't know, I think somebody left the chat. Oh yeah, so if y'all can quickly put that you're here now so I could take the last attendance. And that's gonna be pretty much it. Thank you all. Thank you. And then once you put your here, you can feel free to log out. I'm gonna download the chat. Hope you all have a great next class session. See y'all. Bye. Bye, Basti. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and save the chat now. So do make sure that you put your here if you didn't yet. Hopefully Perry and Viviana, hopefully you did. Okay, thank you. I'm just gonna put Perry on here because I see you on there, but I don't know if you replied. But all right, bye y'all.